my personal position. Can I just withhold all the meetings that it is right now and proceed directly to the speech? I hope I'm not late. I flew in from Boracay in Aklan, the lost paradise of the Philippines, where we held a Senate committee hearing yesterday on the environmental aspect and the wastewater problems, among many things, in this 1,000-hectare island paradise in Aklan, which has been touted as the best island in the world previously. I hope it doesn't lose its tag as being one of the best islands in the world because of how man destroyed it. And I would like to say that my job as a legislator for 20 years now, since I started in 1998, would not have been as prolific and as productive if my hearing was not restored, when I lost it quite a few times. And you know that. I lost it partially in 2004, I lost it again in 2007 or 8, 2011 or 12, intermittently, and it's traumatizing, to say the least. And it really has a direct impact on your psychological, emotional well-being. And so when I see my staff or friends or people I don't know who have problems with hearing loss, or hear sounds from somewhere, I sympathize and empathize, and I recommend them ASAP to Dr. Chong and my cousin, who's an ENT, Dr. Randy Lopa, and many other doctors who have helped me, because I realize how difficult it is to lose an even part of your hearing. And what more, those who are born with hearing deficiency. So allow me first to extend my sincerest appreciation to the organizers of this event for having me. I'm not a specialist, I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, as you know, I'm a lawmaker. But I think my laws have helped our country, have helped our people, and it's not just the policy that I helped write, along with the experts like Dr. Chong, but also the funding I've provided as chairman of the Committee on Finance. The great Helen Keller once said, and I quote, "Blindness cuts us off from things, but deafness cuts us off from people." Dr. Mark Ross, an esteemed audiologist who is afflicted with hearing loss, also said, and I quote, "When someone in the family has a hearing loss, the entire family has a hearing problem," unquote. The difficulty and stress of having deafness or hearing loss may be experienced differently by one person and another, but we all know very well how this condition affects the way a person communicates, behaves, and fosters relationships with other people and the world they live in. We could just imagine a child not being able to hear his or her parents' voices. You know that very well as medical doctors. A mother or father unable to listen to his or her own child's voice. Tragic. Or an elderly person incapable to remember his or her own or anyone's voice anymore. I see this every day. Sometimes you don't even have to be elderly, whether it's my house help or my staff or a friend or even me, because of so much trauma, sound and noise, pollution all over us, construction, even just voices, to loud music, industry, everything is just so jarring. And I can see, because of what happened in 2004 and later on, that I am just so sensitive to sound. I even have to walk out of speaking engagements when the audio system is too loud, when the music is too loud, or sometimes when they welcome me so passionately and have to use drums. And it's part of my complete staff work of my staff. For the advanced party, no drums. But I'm a promoter of indigenous knowledge and indigenous music. And sometimes they just like, bang, 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 the cymbals and the drums. And I had to walk out of the National Commission on Culture and Arts recently when they welcomed me with drums and loud music. In fact, if I may digress a little, my friend who heads PETA has been inviting me to a very well-awarded play, except that the music of the play is just too jarring for me, and I know that very well. So we just have to do some adaptation in our lifestyle if we don't want any additional trauma on our hearing. So we may be unable to fully comprehend about their condition, but I do, because I've been through it a few times, hopefully never again. But we know that they deserve all the support and help that we can provide. As we hold our event today, we not only recognize the unfortunate reality that a great number of Filipinos and people all over the world live with deafness or hearing loss, but we also attest to the need to strengthen our preventive measures and bolster medical care in addressing this condition. I speak before you, experts and advocates in the medical field who know very well about deafness and hearing loss much better than I do. And I would therefore be preaching to the choir if I spoke about the urgency of this health issue. I am here as a policymaker and as a three-term legislator. And as such, it is my utmost responsibility to create laws that will deal with specific issues and problems in our country that require timely and appropriate policies and actions. This is also my last term, my last 1.5 years in the Senate, serving as a committee chair of the Finance Committee, a role that has allowed me and my colleagues in the Senate to recommend changes in our national budget to prioritize projects and programs that we deem should be the primary concern of government. So, to all the doctors, scientists, leaders, and advocates present here today, lend me your thoughts, your ideas, your knowledge, your wisdom. Let us all help each other bring positive change and instill the necessary measures to prevent and provide care to those who suffer from deafness and hearing loss. Hear the Future is this year's theme for World Hearing Day. It draws our attention towards the expected rise in the number of people with hearing loss across the world. In our gathering here today, we echo the global call to prevent this increase and ensure that people with deafness and hearing loss are provided with the necessary rehabilitation services and communication tools to aid them in their daily lives. The future of humanity rests upon our present actions, and we certainly need to put measures in place now if we want to ensure that every child in the future is able to communicate and connect with the people and the world as freely as possible. According to the World Health Organization, there are 360 million people, or 5.3% of the world's population, with disabling hearing loss. For a while, I was part of this 5.3%. Of this, 91% are adults, 9% are children, or 328 million adults and 32 million children all over the world. The prevalence of disabling hearing loss in children ages 0 until 13 is greatest in South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, Asia Pacific, where the Philippines belongs. The WHO also estimates that 1.1 billion young people ages 12 to 15 are at risk of hearing loss because of unsafe listening practices, which include exposure to loud sounds from audio devices, noisy venues, in entertainment places, workplace, and even at home. In the Philippines, hearing impairment was reported to be 17%, or 97,000 957 per 577,345 population based on the National Registry of the Department of Health. But this was quite, I wish we would have updated figures. I have the 1997, I'm sure there's an update to that. Moreover, the nationwide survey on hearing disability and hearing disorders conducted by Better Hearing Philippines in 2005, quite old, estimates the prevalence of hearing disability at 8.8% of the general population, citing wax problem, otitis, media, and non-infectious conditions as the leading causes. Prevalence of hearing impairment, including mild forms of hearing loss, was up 28%. And all quoting studies here, this is not original statements, just so that it's clear. The study of Dr. Charlotte Chong, director of the Philippine National Ear Institute, reported, and I quote, at least 8 profoundly hearing deaf babies are born every day in the Philippines, or 1 deaf baby born every 3 hours. Early detection and prevention will be crucial in bringing down this statistic. Dr. Chong emphasized that hearing intervention is critical before the age of 6 months. Without intervention at this age, hearing impaired children will experience some form of language delay, or that their level of speech comprehension and speech development will be lower, unquote. When undiagnosed before 6 months, children also do poorly in school and may suffer psychosocially due to feelings of isolation and low self-esteem. There is also the need for longer intervention and special education for these children before they can be mainstreamed into regular schools as compared to those diagnosed and rehabilitated before 6 months. Globally, the WHO estimates that for children under 15 years of age, 60% of hearing loss is attributable to preventable causes, including infections such as mumps, measles, rubella, meningitis, etc., and chronic otitis media, complications at the time of birth, such as birth asphyxia, low birth weight, prematurity, jaundice, and the use of ototoxic medicines in expecting mothers and babies. Again, that's a quote. The call to strengthen efforts in addressing this health issue was reiterated last year in May 31 during the 70th World Health Assembly, which unanimously approved and adopted a resolution on the prevention of deafness and hearing loss. The resolution acknowledges that majority of the people with hearing loss live in low and middle income countries that lack the resources and the strategies to address it. It also states that most of the causes of hearing loss are avoidable with preventive strategies, that the interventions available are both successful and cost-effective, but that despite this, most people with hearing diseases and hearing loss do not have access to suitable services. Allow me now to highlight a few important provisions urging greater action from member states. The resolution calls on governments to integrate strategies for ear and hearing care within the framework of primary health care systems or under the umbrella of universal health care coverage. It also urges member states to develop, implement, and monitor screening programs for early identification of ear diseases in high-risk populations, including infants, young children, older adults, and people exposed to noise in occupational and recreational settings. It encourages improved access to affordable and cost-effective assistive hearing technologies and products as part of universal health coverage, as well as a promotion of alternative methods of communication. It is a resolution that supports the attainment of our goals in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, particularly Goal 3, which is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Goal 4, which is to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Certainly, this resolution will further inform our national policies and sustain our efforts to address hearing loss in our country. During my first term in 2003, I authored Republic Act 9245 with the late Senator Juan Flavier, who was also Secretary of Health, which created the Philippine National Ear Institute. The law mandates the Ear Institute to conduct community-based studies related to deafness and balance disorders, and to initiate, conduct, monitor, evaluate researches dealing with curative, rehabilitative, preventive aspects of hearing and vestibular disorders, among others. In 2004, we also enacted Republic Act 9288, or the Newborn Screening Act, which I authored, that seeks to ensure that every baby born in the Philippines is offered the opportunity to undergo newborn screening, thus be spared from conditions that can lead to mental retardation, serious health complications, or death if left undetected and untreated. It also emphasizes the parents' responsibility in promoting their child's right to health and full development by protecting their child from preventable causes of disability and death through newborn screening. This legislation is complemented by Republic Act 9709, or the Universal Newborn Hearing Screening and Intervention Act of 2009. This was when I returned to the Senate in my second term in 2007, after I suffered my first hearing loss in 2004, when I was brought to Dr. Chong, who told me that her dream was to actually enact into law a paper that has been her lifelong advocacy, that she's invested so much time and resources in. And when she was checking my tinnitus and partial hearing loss, she said, I wish that there would be a senator who could file this. I'm sorry, I said, I'm out of the Senate now, but I intend to run in 2007. And I said, when I assume my second term, I am certain I will file it. And she was in the gallery who was assisting me when I was defending it in 2007. It was enacted into law in 2009. So perhaps it was my partial hearing loss which led me to her. And if I did not have that ailment in 2004, I wouldn't have met her. So there was a reason for my partial hearing loss. So I hope that reason doesn't come again. So I author this, and it's meant to establish measures to ensure that newborns and children who are deaf or hard of hearing have access to prevention, early diagnosis of congenital hearing loss, considering their unique language, learning, and communication needs. Through this legislation, a universal newborn hearing screening program was established to institutionalize measures for the prevention and early diagnosis of congenital hearing loss among newborns, and the provision of support services for families of newborns with hearing loss by affording them all the opportunities to be productive members of our community. While we have already passed these 3 important laws to prevent our newborns from hearing loss, we can actually do much more. In this 17th Congress, I filed Senate Bill 1257, or an act to protect Filipino pregnant and lactating mothers, infants, and young children during the first 1,000 days of life. Another proposed measure that seeks to help our hearing impaired fellow Filipinos is Senate Bill 900, filed by Senator J.V. Ejercito, which provides telecommunication systems accessibility to the hearing impaired and to the speech impaired. Health and nutrition programs in every barangay shall be established, along with the strengthening of the National Nutrition Council as the policy-making body in nutrition to secure the implementation of programs to protect mothers and their infants. For this year, as chair of your Committee on Finance, I've ensured sufficient funding of the Universal Health Care Program under the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation so that all Filipinos, including those not enrolled in PhilHealth, can access healthcare services in all government hospitals. It is indeed, yes, there's universal health coverage, and in case those who don't know, because they think healthcare is so inaccessible, for 2 years already, we've actually funded the Universal Health Care Act, and even in government, those in the executive have the PhilHealth Plus. Just in the 2018 budget, where I allocated 3.2 billion, not just for point of care service, but also for checkups, including SPEC 23, CBC, the usual, chest x-ray, and hearing checkups for those in the executive department in government. And they're the backbone of our government. And so, it is clear, we know the government's responsibility to protect and promote the rights of every Filipino to life and survival, and to provide them with equal opportunity to thrive as productive members of our society. But we certainly need your help in nurturing this kind of life that we want for our children and our fellow Filipinos. As we gather today for our symposium on World Hearing Day and the 10th International Academic Conference in Otology, Rhinology, and Laryngology, we want to sustain and forge anew partnerships with scientists, experts, leaders, and experts in various fields of health. We want your academic researches and recent technological advances in your respective fields so that we in government can be informed of our actions in order to save lives and provide care for all Filipinos. I would welcome more information from all the 3 laws related to hearing that I already authored. In the next 1.5 years that I'm still in the Senate, I would also be happy to hear, which I just learned before I entered this room, on the budgetary needs of the national, of UP Manila, of the PNEI, and the implementation of the newborn hearing screening. In fact, every government hospital, every health institution in our country must be equipped, not just with the doctors and the medical personnel, but also with equipment so that it would not just be curative, but also preventive. And I would be happy to receive it from UP, from PGH, and from other private institutions so that we could fund it under the National Expenditure Program for 2019, which will be next year's budget of the General Appropriations Act. So clearly, we must develop and promote sustainable and effective solutions to deafness and hearing loss, as well as to communicate the importance of hearing care, especially among the youth of our country. We should amplify our call and inspire many more others in our cause and in our advocacy. We can certainly do more to prevent and to reconnect the people who feel isolated from this same world that we share and live in. Let us all work together and towards achieving all these goals. And so, I thank you for having me here today. As I said, I'm here to support you, and I would like to make sure that the budget that we enact in the coming years would be responsive to the needs, the hearing needs of our greater majority of Filipinos. Thank you very much. Good morning to all.
Ladies and gentlemen, LOREN LEGARDA. At this point, we would like to call on stage the following institutional individuals to join the Senator for a commemorative World Hearing Day group photo. So we call on stage Professor Milan Provan, General Secretary of the International Federation of Lower Societies, Professor Yan Esigalta, Founding President of Orlia, Professor Herman Jenkins, President of Hearing International, Professor Barry Tan, General Secretary of the Asian Academy of Neuro-Audiology, Professor Dato Lokman Said, Co-Chair of the International Advisory Committee for the Audiology, Professor Alfredo Winnie Montes, who is already on stage. If she is here, Dr. Agnes Remulla, President of the Philippine Society of Otolaryngology and Expertise. And also Dr. James, please join them on stage.